And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. So tonight we're going to be reviewing Constantine. I have my good friend Bob here. We're going to be reviewing this scene by scene, and then, of course, we're going to go on ahead and talk about it nostalgically. Then we're going to strip away the nostalgia by talking about it scene by scene. So let's go on ahead. Let's review Constantine. And hey, Bob, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to have you back here. We did our top 5 worst movie endings.
Right. Yeah, that was the last one. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. That was a lot of
It
fun to
was.
do.
It was. And I couldn't believe the similarities. That was the funny part to me is the overlap, but not totally overlapped, but only subtly overlapped.
Right. And that's what I liked about doing it was the fact that we didn't even know that we actually picked out the same movies. It's just so happens
Right.
to be they landed that way.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're not that good.
No, they're definitely not that good.
Yeah.
But I can tell you one thing that I am excited about talking about is Constantine, which is the 2005 Keanu Reeves movie. I just wanted to ask you about if you could rate this movie out of 10 nostalgically, and where were you
Mhm.
at that time when you first heard about this movie? When did you first
Mhm.
see this movie? And get into all the nitty gritty of the nostalgia of it.
Yeah, so I remember I didn't see this at the theater, which I'm regretting now that time's passed. It's been a while. I guess it's been 20 years now almost. But I did see it. I think I rented it. Be early, I guess early streaming at that point, right? 2005. And I mean, I loved it. I've seen it, I don't know how many times since then. I mean, it's one of those ones where if it's on, then I watch wherever I catch it. If I just happen to be, sifting through things and like, hey, there's Constantine. If I'm not doing anything, I'll watch a good chunk of it, if not the rest of it, because I really enjoyed this movie when I watched it at the time. So like my nostalgia meter is going to be pretty darn high for this one because I find it so enjoyable. It kind of ticks all the boxes. And I was, as I was rewatching it today, I noticed that Keanu Reeves, I don't know that I've never heard this anywhere or written anywhere, I've read it or anything, but he does a really good job of being in movies that are a world within a world, shall we
Right, it has
say?
that supernatural kind of way of actually looking at
Yeah.
stuff, right? And
Yeah.
that whole entire element of like fantasy clashed with reality.
Yeah, and so this one, and so if you think about other Keanu Reeves movies, The Matrix obviously is a world within a world within a world kind of a situation, and John Wick is a world within a world, and this one, Constantine, is right in there with them as far as the concept that everyday people don't see what he's seen, and it's a whole other realm that you can enter, not just the obviously the realm of the supernatural, the realm of heaven and hell, but just as the movie goes and you get kind of pulled into it, he is the your guide into this other world that is all around everyone in the movie that most people aren't even aware of. And
Exactly.
yeah, and he's done it over and over in these movies, and I'm like, I don't know that I've ever really thought about that until now, and how he's been kind of instrumental. I mean, even if you go all the way back to Speed,
Yeah,
the
that's
world
true.
of police, of hostage situations, which most people don't ever get involved in. He pulls you into that as well. So he's a really good guide to bring people into these other areas that you normally would never, be involved in.
I agree. He always picks out the right scripts that's perfect for him to where it fits him and his character and who he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, they pull you into this world with a world within a world kind of setting where this is actually where we're at. We're at this
Mm-hmm.
action speed kind of race to try and take down a bus, for example, for speed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nonstop action. Or We're in John Wick. He's an assassin, and these rules are established for
Right.
him.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the world building that he chooses to go with the movies that he plays in. So that's something that I really do appreciate when it comes down to that.
Yeah, you could even say The Day the Earth Stood Still because he was an alien in that one, but I don't think it's quite as good as the other ones that we mentioned that he's been in. So, a little bit off on that one.
So where would you actually put this, like, out of 10?
Oh gosh, I would do at least an 8, maybe an 8.5, because I mean the rewatchability of this movie is just phenomenal for being really not a big hit. I mean, a lot of times people kind of gravitate towards blockbuster movies and rewatching them and so forth. And this one, it was. I mean, I think it was moderately successful, but not tremendously successful because they did obviously want this was set up to be there was supposed to be a sequel. I mean, it was obvious,
Right. They were trying to establish a sequel, and it always had those cliffhanger endings,
right?
Hoping that that this movie would actually see another sequel. And a matter of fact, they're supposed to go on ahead and put out a sequel.
I know, I heard that. Yeah, I read something or I saw something that they might be heading in that direction, and I would love it. I think, and actually, I think everybody in the movie who was alive as a character could still come back. So that's a great thing, No one has passed that I can think of out of the movie that would kind of, put a knot in that, you know what I mean? So
Right.
looks like I was
Knock
just
on wood.
I was doing a real quick box office look. So the budget was estimated to be around 100 million. The U.S. Canada, North America gross was 75 million. And the opening weekend was 29 million. And the worldwide gross was 230 million. So it did make money, but it's not, they always want to make their money, right out of the gate.
Broke even if you think about it. But at the same time, if you take a third of that and goes through the PR department, the catering service, marketing, and everything else, and make its money fully back.
Right. But, like I said, it was, it was pretty good, but not fantastic. So.
But here's the thing for me. I remember seeing the previews for this. I was in college at the time. I didn't get to see this one in theaters either. I remember this being a DC property. I love DC comics and stuff like that, but I was never familiar with the lore of Constantine.
Right.
Up until the TV series came out. That's whenever I really gravitated towards that. Because that was more of the comic book adaptation of that. But to see Keanu Reeves do this, I really enjoyed it. Because the original story takes place in London. They decided to take it out of London and put it into LA.
Right.
And have that LA atmospheric kind of way of doing things and have an apocalyptic kind of world within LA. So to give us some type of
gritty LA, the very gritty LA. Yeah.
Exactly. Just to give us a little bit of that, basically our world and stuff like that to make it more relatable, to put that in perspective. But, I own the DVD of this. I still have the DVD, the original DVD that Constantine came in. I just upgraded to a 4K for this because I knew I was going to do the review for the anniversary edition. But I love this movie. There's always the rewatchability. You always discover something new within this. I love Keanu Reeves as an actor. I loved him in John Wick. I loved him in Speed. I didn't care for Dracula too much, but that's another story.
But he didn't get a lot to do in Dracula. So yeah.
Hardball is also one of my other favorite ones he's done. Anything with Keanu Reeves in it, I just have to watch. And even Bill and Ted.
Right. All three of them? All three Bill and Ted's? Okay.
Just the first two. The third one, no, they were trying to. In my opinion.
Yeah.
But, if I had to rate this out of 10, I'm going to have to go at least an 8.5.
Yeah.
For this.
I think
nostalgically. So, now that we talked about this nostalgically, now we're going to erase the nostalgia by going scene by scene and doing the scene by scene breakdown. So, with that being said, let's go on ahead and do this. So, in a world where angels are shady, demons have attitude, and Keanu Reeves smokes like it's his side quest, one podcast dares to review the most stylish exorcism ever put on film. And I think we just opened a portal to hell.
Well, John,
Yeah.
I think there's a demon in the studio.
Oh
Something's
no,
whispering Latin in my ear. You know?
Bob. That's just my DoorDash guy, man.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess fast food and an exorcism go together. So,
Yeah, and I ordered a holy water and a pack of Marlboros to go with our DoorDash food. So
oh,
there you go.
good. All right. So grab your crucifix, salt your windows, and join us as we dive into the most stylish supernatural noir ever made.
Sounds like a Tuesday. This is Movie Lovers Unite, and we're about to send Constantine straight to review heaven or hell. Guess we'll find out. So, scene one. John Constantine is an exorcist who lives in Los Angeles, born with the power to see angels and demons on Earth. He committed suicide at age 15 after being unable to cope with his visions. Constantine was revived by paramedics, but spent 2 minutes in hell. He knows that because of his actions, his soul is condemned to damnation, which when he dies, and has recently learned that he has developed cancer as a result of his smoking habit. And so at the very beginning of this, it opens up to them finding the spear of destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was kind of unusual to have the spear of destiny mixed in with a Nazi swastika.
Well, they
Like,
stole it. They
right,
stole it.
right.
Yeah.
So it has like an Indiana Jones kind of feel for the opening sequence, which I thought was
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Like you have this artifact that this person finds, and he picks it up. He walks off with it like a zombie. Then he
Right.
gets hit by a car,
Mm-hmm.
and then he walks off like nothing happened.
Right.
And then it goes into Constantine.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me was it was in Mexico, right, where the guy finds the spear of destiny wrapped
Yeah,
in a Nazi flag, right? So, you got to immediately you're like, well, how the heck did that get there, right? So,
right,
yeah, and then apparently imbibes the holder with some type of invincibility or super powers of some kind because all this happens. He jumped over a fence like it was nothing. The other part, as he was leaving and so forth, and it was like he just jumped over this fence like it was not even there. And I think that I love that part as the beginning rather than starting with Constantine, because you're setting up. They basically set up the ending at the beginning, right? Because at the beginning of the movie, if you've never watched it before, you see this and you're like, well, what's this about? Why does this guy have the spear of destiny, and where's that going to fall in? But then we kind of leave that for a while, and
right.
then it comes back into the story again. But they could have easily, most movies, because of the way movies are made, they'll start out with the star, and you start with the star and you move through their story first. But I thought this was really good way to do it because and this gets into kind of the mise en scène of the movie, in the sense that Constantine is not the main subject.
No, it's like he becomes like secondary in a sense
Yes. Yeah.
because we don't know exactly where this goes because we see the
Mm-mm.
spear of destiny, and it's kind of like, okay, where does Constantine fit in with this artifact?
Mm-hmm.
Where does this go?
Because
And once,
yeah, Constantine's not the end all be all. He's one of the many, and obviously the spear of destiny is more powerful than anything else that you'll encounter, most people. And it kind of really sets the tone a little bit with the supernatural aspect of things without being incredibly overtly doing it. You know what I mean? Because it's very mysterious.
it is because we don't know anything about this artifact or
Yeah.
anything. We don't know how this thing connects or anything. We don't know what this is about, what's going on at the very beginning of it, and then it goes
Mm-hmm.
into Constantine, and
Mm-hmm.
I like how it goes into this thing of Constantine praying,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what's going on in that scene or anything like that. It's zoomed in on his face,
Mm-hmm.
but after a case involving a full-fledged demon trying to break into onto the human plane, Constantine
Mm.
seeks an audience with the uh, Agrononus, I think that's how you say it, half-breed angel Gabriel. He asks
Right.
Gabriel
Yeah.
for reprieve from death so that they can continue fighting demons, which Gabriel declines.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about that whole entire thing of Constantine trapping the demon in the mirror
In the mirror. Yeah.
and doing this exorcism. And I like how he's talking shit to the demon. He goes,
Right.
I'm John Constantine, asshole."
Right.
And then he traps the demon in the mirror. And then and for some reason or another, the demon's still trying to break through even with the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself with this, okay, he gets Shia LaBeouf's character, Chaz, to
Mm-hmm.
come pull up the taxi cab. This
Mm-hmm.
as the demon is trying to break out of the mirror, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you're trying to smash the mirror that the demon is trying to break out of.
Right.
So wouldn't the demon also be walking on Earth because he's still trying to get out? I know that I'm breathing a little too much into it,
Right.
but I'm like, and I know that this is just a Keanu Reeves movie. I get it. I know this is a comic book movie. I get it. But at the same time, you're trying to get this demon out of there.
Right.
And this demon is also trying to break out of this mirror. So I don't know. It just felt kind of.
I think this is one of the Achilles heels of the movie. I guess at this point I'll mention it. So it's 2005, right? So the effects looking back at them now aren't as good as now. And I think what they probably should have done at this juncture was have the demon like stretch the mirror or have part of its body come out of the mirror. And I think that would have eliminated the worry. So the idea for Constantine was he had to get it out away from the girl and smash it in order to trap the demon, right? But whenever the demon was struggling, it looked like it was trying to break the mirror as opposed to kind of more like a
being trapped in the inside,
right? Like stretching it or you know what I mean, kind of breaking through the veil, as it were. And I don't think they brought that across very well. And I think that was just because of the effects. I think they just didn't have a good way. They didn't have a good way of portraying that, and so therefore, I think it looks like he's just trying to break the mirror. When I don't think that was the objective. I think the objective would be like if you can imagine his hand or his limb coming out of the mirror or his fingers coming out of the mirror a little bit before you break it. Because the idea, and this is one of those, I mean, this is a trope, right? You can trap spirits in mirrors. This goes way back in history, right? So everyone in over history says that you have to have a beveled edge on a mirror in order to trap the spirits or also sneak out the side. And so that's what all this was kind of alluding to. And I think that the effects kind of let down part of that scene. And we'll have a few more of those as we go along, but I think it let down that scene because of that. Now in 2005, pretty darn good.
Yeah, I thought the special effects for it was still good.
Yeah. Yeah.
For $100 million budget, it better be good. For the effects to still stick out.
Yeah, but now, I mean, you have a whole generation of people. If they're coming to this, especially if there's going to be a sequel, they'll come to this one and they'll say, wow, those effects weren't up to snuff, but they are 20 years old. So, just you have to keep that in mind.
Exactly. And then we also discovered that John Constantine also has lung cancer as well. And this is also before he goes over to Gabriel, because remember, he goes over to Gabriel trying to find a way to be able to live on Earth longer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he winds up having terminal lung cancer, and he's over there smoking a cigarette.
Right.
And the woman's like, "Way to go, John. Yeah.
Yeah. His doctor's not overly enthused about his behavior.
And
Um,
she's like, make sure you tell people that you love goodbye,
right.
stuff like that. And he's like, screw it.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, he's already been to hell once. Why,
Exactly. So what
he
difference
knows
does
he's
it make?
going to hell. He's been there before. Uh, Back up to Gabriel. I inspired casting to have Tilda Swinton. I mean, it's not a huge role necessarily, but I mean, so inspired because she you see her, right, and you kind of know who she is from other movies and so forth, but I mean she really comes across, and it's like, okay, the angel Gabriel, you have this kind of androgynous thing going on with her as Gabriel, right?
Right.
And I just you you almost when that during their interchanges, even early on, you're like, I just can't help but watch.
Same, because not only that, but she also played in Doctor Strange as well.
Hmm. Correct, yeah.
Right.
The ancient one,
Uh,
yeah.
and let me
She
think
was
what
in
else.
Snowpiercer as a
Yep.
great character as well. A really scary character. Yeah.
But you know what though? You with this character though, you become enthused into the mythology around Gabriel.
Hmm.
And at first you're thinking, okay, he meets up with Gabriel, he wants a life extension. She winds up telling him, no, this is the way life is, this is how it goes. The only way that you get a life extension if you sacrifice your own self for somebody
Hmm.
else, and that's it.
Right.
And he goes, well, you would think that everybody that I saved from doing these exorcisms, it would actually get my way into heaven. And I
Right.
like this idea of this guy doing all these exorcisms to try
Hmm.
and buy himself a way out to go up to heaven. When really
Hmm.
it's not about him saving anybody, it's about his own self
Right.
trying to get himself up to heaven rather
Hmm.
than him
It's a
trying to save these
selfish
people for the
notion.
good of
Yeah.
it. Right. It's selfishness.
Yeah. And this is
The
a little
covetousness.
foreshadowing for the movie as well.
Right. And I like that idea of this guy who's so jaded to the point where he's going to do anything to try to get up into heaven because he doesn't want to go into hell. So therefore,
Right.
he thinks that he's doing the Lord's work because of
Hmm.
the fact that, he's doing all these exorcisms.
Right. Yeah. And well, he's already seen a partial 2-minute view of the outcome.
Right.
So
Then
he's
we
like, yeah, I
actually
don't want to
have,
do that. Yeah.
then we also have this whole entire scene play out too, where you have this girl jumping off the building of a
Right.
hospital. We don't
Hmm.
know why she's doing it. We do know that she's jumping off this hospital building, psychiatric building.
Hmm.
And then we're introduced to Detective Angela Dotson, who investigates the death of her twin sister Isabel, who
Right.
leaped from a psychiatric hospital roof. Angela refuses to believe her sister, a devout Catholic, would commit suicide and condemn herself to hell. Watching
Hmm.
security footage, Angela hears Isabel say Constantine and seeks out his assistance. He
Hmm.
refuses to help until he witnesses demons pursuing Angela and fends them off.
Hmm.
Constantine then performs a ritual to see Isabel in hell, confirming she killed herself. He reveals to Angela that he committed suicide as a teenager because of the trauma of seeing supernatural creatures, although he was revived. His
Hmm.
attempt that has condemned him to hell when he eventually dies.
Hmm.
But the thing that I like about this is, okay, so you have this sister who is in this whole entire thing of self doubt of like, my sister would never do that. She would never
Right.
kill herself. She's a
Hmm.
Catholic. I'm like, well, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it
Right.
or anything.
Sure.
But I get that whole entire idea of like she's in shock. She doesn't know what to think, especially when she comes in there and she sees her sister, um, draped, have her body covered up.
Hmm.
She's in total shock about it, and she
Right.
doesn't know what to think. And then when she hears the word Constantine and realizes who he is, then she wants his help.
Right.
So, and then she also watched the security footage. So, what do you think?
Hmm. Well, the funny thing is, I remember watching this for the first time when I watched this scene again today. I remember when I watched it the first time, maybe I wasn't paying too close attention. I'm like, why are we seeing her kill herself? Because we didn't, at that point in time, we didn't know she was a twin. And then why is she still alive? And is this like a flash forward, kind of thing? And then finally they, mention that and so forth. But whenever we first see Isabel, on the edge of the roof and everything, I thought that was the same character for those few moments. And I think in a way, I think that was a bit intentional. So then that way there's a little more mystery. It's kind of like the Spear of Destiny mystery. You got this mystery. And really the funny thing is the only thing that's totally explained is Constantine at that point. Because you get all the background. He can see things. He kills himself. He's got cancer. He's trying to live longer. He's been helping people. They really got up to speed on his character like toot sweet, and then we slowly get into the Isabel Angela thing, and it's a little bit confusing. And I think that the interesting thing is that and we so there's a connection between Isabel and Angela that is kind of very similar to Constantine. And that doesn't come out until a little bit later. But it's interesting, the duality of the twins, right? Because one's committed and one's,
A detective.
a cop, yeah, detective. And so the interesting thing is that's almost like Constantine in a way, because he is both. He's committed in the sense that he's very isolated and he's focused on trying to help people. And so, them together is Constantine, except they're apart. And I thought it was kind of, I may be reading a little too much into it, but I thought it was really interesting the way they played that, because they could have easily just made her sister be not a twin, right? They could have just had two different actresses play that, but the whole point of it, I think, was to give you, it's another connection to the story that they're doing and the duality of being in that kind of position.
Right. And you know what, though, Bob? You're not so far off, because I was thinking this too, but I think it makes sense for them to be having this kind of, his work in line of like a detective is different from her line of work as well with Angela. So I like how they have this like buddy cop kind of dynamic in a sense of he investigates the paranormal, she investigates the living, and as well as the dead, if you think about it, because she's investigating a dead body, which happens to be her sister that died. But you're absolutely right. I don't think you're breathing too much into it. I think you hit the nail on the head on that, because I feel like that it's needed to have her sister be a twin, because her twins can actually feel something that other sisters don't. So they can feel something that's abnormal or not right or anything like that. So you had that being played into it. But I definitely like this whole entire idea of Constantine and her working together, because it could be where Constantine goes off and does his thing, Angela goes back and does more investigating on her side, and they don't cross each other. Well, they cross each other's paths, but he doesn't help her. She doesn't go over there and ask for assistance from him.
Yeah.
Because it could have landed that way.
It could have, yeah. But I think that it's better that it didn't. I think the interesting thing was because of that, right? It sets up the ending again. So we won't get into that just yet, but the separation and Isabella being independent, let's say, and taking responsibility and ownership for the actions, which put her in hell, plays into the ending really, really well. And so if it would have been any different, it wouldn't have played into that ending the same way. One of the things we didn't mention, and actually to skip back briefly for a scene and then come forward again, is the symbology. So I noticed it this time more than I noticed at my previous viewings. Whenever he went to help the young girl, to get the demon into the mirror, he's standing at the window. He rips down the curtains and the bright sunlight comes in and he starts holding up what looks like a keychain full of little symbols. And then he holds one up and the girl reacts violently. And then he takes that and he puts it on her head. Right.
Right.
And so there's a lot of symbology in the movie. They didn't go into why all these symbols that he had in his pocket, kind of like a like a utility knife of sorts of symbols in his pocket. And then it burns, he puts it on the girl, and the burns the demon, helps the demon, come out of the girl and so forth to get into the mirror and all that kind of stuff. Well, we come forward into the morgue, and there's a symbol on Isabel.
Which is the same symbol that was on the girl that Constantine used.
Right. He used the same symbol. And so it was, that to me was really, and then we'll see it again in a future scene, but it's interesting, the use of the symbology through things, because I mean, when you get into the occult, this is in the occult, there's a lot of symbolism. And I think they did a really good job of integrating it, but not overly overtly, I suppose, because they didn't explain any of that.
Because here's the thing, it could have been every scene where you get that symbol, but they use it for like 3 scenes and then it's gone.
Right.
Basically.
It's very sparsely utilized, but it's breadcrumbs, right? It's breadcrumbs. But there's not a lot of them. Used very sparsely. But I really enjoyed that. But I remember watching it and not thinking too much about it before, and then today I'm like, when he held up the different stuff in the light, and then he got a reaction, and then he used it. I'm like, wow, that was,
it's like
it was inspired.
Demon, right? Because it feels like this though, Bob, and it feels like every symbol represents a certain demon for that exorcism. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
And so happens to be that same symbol represents the big bad that we're going to get later on. So that's something that I thought was really neat though too, is the mythology behind it and symbology, like you said, of it. Like each thing represents a certain demon, which is something I thought that was very fascinating with it. I like that aspect of it as well.
Right. Yeah. This world is huge, right? That's the idea, is we're on the edge of, as the audience, we're brought into this story, and we're only on the edge of it. We're only on the cusp of it. We're not in the middle of it. So
we're kind of like Angela. If you think about it though, we're only seeing what we can see, opposed to this big gigantic world that Constantine sees in this realm that he sees. We're only having like a small speck of the whole entire deal of what we can see in front of us, and that's it. Our world is smaller in scale compared to what Constantine sees.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it's good though. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example of other movies where, there's kind of this duality of, the world that the asleep live in, and the world that the awake live in, so to speak. And I'm trying to think of one, but a lot of times they overdo it, right? They're constantly throwing it at you and so forth. But this one, it's, you're led in there very gently, and it starts opening up and opening up and opening up. It's not like full on, all of a sudden you're awake and everything's happening. It's little hits, right? Little tiny hits, and then bigger, and then you get to the crescendo at the end.
Right. And then you also have Angela saying Isabel saying Constantine, and he seeks out his assistance. And I like how they're both at this whole entire thing with Gabriel, because she's over there to see the priest, and it's 2 separate worlds, right?
Right.
It's 2 separate entities working together. You have the earthly father, then you have Gabriel, the angel, sitting where the fireplace is, standing there, and only Constantine himself can see the angel wings. Nobody else can see that.
Nobody can see it. Yeah.
I'm wondering too, like if she could see her. I'm wondering if she can see Gabriel. At all, or if he just sees Constantine going near the fire and just staring into a fire.
Well, we don't know. So because they never showed us her point of view from that scene.
No.
Right. So they did show her. So when they first walk in, they're kind of, it's a little bit of a tete-a-tete, who's here first, who gets to see who first kind of a situation. And then when they get to the end of the library, where the fireplace is and everything, she goes to the priest and he goes to the fireplace and he goes to talk to Gabriel. And so they weren't even there to see the same people. And I think we're assuming that they're both going to see the priest and then they split off, but they never give us her point of view to see if they do have a wide shot with Constantine and Gabriel in a suit standing there without wings. And I'm assuming that was her point of view. And so she could see Gabriel, but not in all his glory.
Without her wings, though.
Right. Without the wings.
She's human.
Right. Because she's a half-breedish person, as he would say.
Right. Exactly. So she'd be like a fallen angel in a sense.
Right.
So therefore, now Angela can see her. So yeah, that makes sense though later on in the film.
Yeah. So, but truly though, we didn't get a real POV from Angela. I mean, I think that was the POV, but it wasn't overt. So it could have been just as a wide shot that they tossed in there. But I would say we just have to take it as a POV. I don't think I'm taking it. Yeah, I don't think that she saw him speaking to no one. I think she saw Gabriel, but not in all his glory. So,
And that's something too that I really enjoyed about it was the fact that even when you get to Father Hennessy, though, too, he's over there looking for a bottle of whiskey or something to drink, and he's over there pouring it out. But in his POV, there's nothing coming out of that bottle.
Right.
So that's why it made me think that maybe Angela is also having that same type of experience with Gabriel because she's not seeing the angelic being that Gabriel is.
Right.
That's something I was just thinking.
Yeah, more duality, right? So, and I mean, this whole movie is about the duality of everyone, if you think about it, because we're all good and we're all evil, and it comes out in different measures. And then there's the heaven and hell, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It is so incredibly deep that you can dig yourself into if you want to, but as a movie, if you just stay on, it's a really good action movie.
It really is.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about something else though too that we didn't talk about was the fact that you have someone that makes these things to fight the demons too.
Right.
Which I thought it was really cool to see like a James Bond kind of thing with the weapons, Dragon's Breath. You have that. You have other little tools that Constantine uses, and he's the one who makes them.
Right. Yeah, and we don't really get a good background on him. Beeman, I think, is his name, and he, but he, does a really good job and offers up a lot, but they don't really give a lot of, kind of like Shia LaBeouf's character, Chaz. We don't get a huge backstory for some of these, secondary characters, but it's fine. It works, right? He's serving the purpose. He's supplying some weaponry, and he's supplying, some insight, right? Because he has things that other people don't have, and he's kind of, you're right. He's kind of the Q, which is funny because his name's Beeman. It's also funny that Father Hennessy, his name is Hennessy, but but it kind of adds to it as well, and it builds the world, right? So there's other Beemans.
It really does. Brandy says, I want to see the second one after seeing this. I do too, whenever they decide to make it. Hopefully, Keanu will be attached still. He's not 90 trying to play Constantine.
Right. What is that alluding to Harrison Ford?
Maybe.
Or
Deadpool and Wolverine. But let's also talk about this, though, too. I like this other thing that happens. Because we got two scenes on the streets where demons are confronting John.
Right.
I love when John is at the gas station and gets attacked by one of the demons out on the streets, and then he has to go see Papa Midnight.
Right. And
I like how Chaz is over there trying to get into this club. He goes, "Come on, I can get into this club. It's a piece of cake." Right. And just okay, if you can read the tarot cards, you can get in.
Right. Exactly.
And so he gets in there. He goes to the club, and he goes, 2 frogs sitting on the bench. That's what Constantine sees. Right. So Chaz thinks, okay, it has to be the same thing. Two
Mm-hmm.
frogs sitting on the bench. Nope, it was a hippo in a
Nope.
dress.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was funny. It was a funny scene as well. And Chaz is really kind of a bit of a, comic relief character for a while there. And, because his car gets hit with the mirror and he's kind of, the non-sidekick, as it were,
Right.
driving him around and so forth. But yeah, I think though, obviously, we'll talk more about Chaz as we get further into the story, but it was a funny little bit. And then they had a midnight fantastic character. I can't say his name, but Damon Hunsu.
Yes.
He's been in everything. I mean, the guy is prolific, and just about every time I've seen him, I'm like, bang on. This guy knows how to play these characters, and he did it. He did it here.
Matter of fact, I loved him in Never Back Down, A Quiet Place 2. He just shows up randomly that you don't expect him to show up, and
Mm-hmm.
he just captures the whole entire movie. He
Right.
overshadows everybody that's in there.
Yeah, he was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy early on. So
Yep.
yeah, and yeah, he's just a great actor and a great character actor. And again, not a lot of backstory, right? He's Switzerland. That's all you know. He's neutral. I don't give to the evil. I don't give to the good.
Right.
I'm balanced, right? And so, but not a lot of you know, backstory on him. But even without the backstory, just like with Beeman and with Hennessy, they work. They're so good that you believe them, and you don't need a lot of backstory. You just whatever they're doing, it's good and it works, and I believe them. I don't need to know more.
Let's see. I definitely agree with that, though. That I wanted to that you were mentioning, like without a backstory of Papa Midnight or anything, too. You actually get a sense of who he is. Not only that, but also the other guy that John wants to go on ahead and send to hell. Baratus, I think was his
Right.
name. And there's a rule, just how John Wick and with the Continental, there's a rule
Right.
that you cannot
Yeah.
do this inside his club. And I
Oh,
like this
Balthazar. Is that who you're talking about?
episode. Yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Like, I like how they established the rules like that.
Right.
It's like you can't do any exorcisms in my club
Right.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. There's just something about that of the Papa Midnight operating a nightclub
Mm-hmm. Right.
with other demons, and is neutral, and get this, to the outside world like us, we wouldn't see them as demons or anything like that. We
No.
would just see them as normal everyday people, opposed to Constantine, who sees them as those demons.
Right. He can he sees through to their true identities. Yeah. The interesting thing about Balthazar was Gavin Rossdale plays him, who was in the rock group Bush. I don't know if you know that or remember that.
Bush. I actually got to see Bush back in 2023 for the first time.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought he did such a good job in this movie. I'm like, why in the world haven't I seen him as a bad guy in every movie? Because he totally carries himself like he is, king shit, and everybody else is nothing. And it just is. He's so good at it. I don't know what to say. I mean, it was totally believable, and I don't think that. I don't know why he's not just. He could have done that for a decade, and everybody would have been, yeah, that's great.
I agree. He could have done more acting gigs playing someone sinister like this.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he oozed it. I mean, he didn't even need to say anything. And he looked the part. He carried himself so well, and we'll get to more of that later in the movie. But I just marveled at the fact. I'm like, why haven't I seen Gavin Rossdale as a villain? I mean, in a bunch of other movies, because he is a fantastic villain.
He is. He's definitely menacing, and I also like once we get towards the end of it and everything on what happens to him later on
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Right.
Yeah. he's definitely menacing. He's definitely someone to be threatened of, be feeling threatened of.
Mhm.
Um, what I wanted to ask you was this. So, what did you think of seeing? It felt like a Silent Hill type of way of actually showing this other demon confronting Angela and Constantine out on the streets, and she doesn't
Mhm.
even believe him.
Right. Yeah.
I love that whole entire scene,
Mhm.
and and then he holds up the lighter. He winds up holding up the dragon's breath,
Mhm.
and vaporizes the demon.
Mhm.
And I've really loved that whole entire deal of having this Silent Hill apocalyptic kind of world, and now Angela now believes him.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of her, what do you want to say? She I think before that she had copped to having feelings, right? Having some feelings of things, but suppressed them, right? And so then, yeah, they're on the street. They go to the Madonna in the window, which is the only thing that's lit, and then all the lights go out, and essentially that was the big reveal for her to see that, this is real, this is happening, and now you've been exposed to it, right? There's no denying it at this point. Oh, the power's going out. I don't think the power's going out. And so, yeah, I think that was a neat, I think it was a great scene. I think it was really neat way to kind of cross her over, if you will, to now believing that when she was younger, that these things weren't imagined.
Right.
And yeah, it was a really good, well laid out scene and everything. And then that also, I think, kind of tipped the tide for her to be a little more accepting of things. So yeah.
Right. She's a lot more open minded now. And then I liked how they go into this where now he's pouring water, where Constantine winds up taking the water and getting a tub
Hmm.
and puts the cat in there with him. And he's looking into the cat's eyes.
Hmm.
And then he goes into the gates of hell
Right. Yeah.
and he's walking around. I like how the cars are on fire, everything's up in smoke.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
you finally see Isabel,
Hmm.
and it's that scene again, but this time she's jumping off the bridge in hell,
Hmm.
reliving the same nightmarish thing that she went through when she committed suicide.
Right.
And I bet she's reliving that over and over again for
Hmm.
eternity. But
Right.
what happens is, Constantine winds up catching the emission, on her arm,
Hmm.
and he winds up bringing it back to Earth, and he went up back into our realm,
Right. Yeah.
which has like a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of vibe to it.
Right. Yeah. Right. He was able to cross over with evidence, essentially. Because you did see in the earlier scene when she's getting ready to jump, it comes off of her arm, the
Right.
hospital bracelet.
Yeah, the
And
hospital
then,
bracelet.
yeah. And then in hell, it does the same thing, comes off her arm and he grabs it. And yeah, the thing that cracks me up, I'm being a cat right here, is Constantine goes, "Oh, great, a cat. They're half in and half out." So they're very neutral in their, they're not evil and they're not good, and they play both sides. I thought that was really funny, kind of a statement to make, which is very true on cats. I think overall, if you've ever had any cats as pets or anything,
I
so I
did. I
thought
had
that
lots
was,
of cats.
yeah, they'll let you pet them one time, and the next time you go to pet them, they'll scratch you, and it's either or. You never know what you're going to get sometimes. But I thought that was really funny, and he was using the cat to cross over. They never really, I mean, they I think they did explain that water helps the transfer between the worlds, right? But they didn't really go into the mechanics of it or anything, which was fine. But because we see more water later in the movie. But I thought it was interesting because it was very interesting because it's like the water was boiling, right?
Right.
And his feet were in it, and but he kept his shoes on and just went for it, and it was just kind of weird. But I love the idea that they brought forth, even though they didn't really, again, totally explain it, which I think this movie does a great job of introducing little elements, and they let you, as an audience member, project onto that what you think that it should be doing. They give you a little kind of direction, but they don't give you like, schematics.
No, because think of it like this: it's a world that no one can explain.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, what's the right way or wrong way to do this?
Right.
So, it's kind of like that kind of element of like using your imagination as to what to believe.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's something I really like about it.
Yeah. And then also for me, as far as, movies go, the pacing then is just fantastic because it doesn't stop and give you a dissertation on something. It just moves right along. We just do at a clip. We're going through all these scenes. We're going through the story. We're working our way to a climactic moment. And that's fantastic. I mean, it's a 2-hour movie, but it doesn't feel like a 2-hour movie.
No, it doesn't. The pacing for this film is just great. It doesn't slow
Yeah.
down. It doesn't treat its audience like an idiot or anything like that.
Right. Exactly.
And it doesn't show us it doesn't explain everything to us. And I'm glad they don't spoon feed it to us.
Right. Exactly.
Or anything. So that's something that I really enjoy about this. This is why it has that rewatchability to where you can go back and relook at stuff again and think of something in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like about Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
With this movie, there's different ways of actually looking at it. There's no right way or wrong way
Right.
of
Yeah.
how to enter hell or enter heaven. This is just the way that Constantine does it, and that's just the world building that Constantine knows how to do because he's been around it so much.
Right. Yeah. And he's very blasé with his interactions. You know what I mean? He's like,
It's like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. It's kind of like at the beginning, they set that up with the doctor and he lights up a cig. And after he just gets, this horrible news and they're like, talk to your loved ones. Cause this is it, man. Yeah. Okay. Lighting up my cigarette and smoking it. It's old hat, right?
Right.
So nothing is phasing him too much.
Then after that, you have once again with Angela wanting to see her sister again to confirm that she killed herself.
Right. Yeah.
And so she goes on ahead, and what does Constantine do? He winds up drowning her in a tub of water,
right,
to send her to hell.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, how would he know if he could actually get her heart back again? What if she just gets stuck there? And that could have been another plot thing that they could have done, where now Constantine has to go into hell to try and pull her out of hell,
right,
and get her back into her body. That could have been another supernatural thing, but they don't.
Sure.
No, and I like how they do this, where it just moves the plot along. It's like, okay, I seen my sister. It's confirmed now. She is now dead, and and she killed herself.
Right. Yeah, I think that was the way to play it. I mean, they could have had a whole, string of scenes, action-y kind of things where he has to go get her out of hell and this and that and everything. Yeah. But it was unnecessary because we're still working our way to the climax of this. And that was just a side thing. Everything that happens with this movie moves the story forward. There's not a lot of unnecessary stuff, and that's the way it should be. I think that's the way you want it to be, because I mean, even though it can be cool and what have you, people like, oh, okay, we spent all this money to create hell, we need to have a character in there for a long time. No, that's not the story. You can make the hell movie another time. That's not this movie.
Right. This is about the origin of Constantine, but not only the origin of Constantine, but also the origin of that thing, that artifact that we got at the very beginning of the movie too. So
right, correct.
You have all these beats playing at the same time, and then it has to be tied in together. So having a full movie in hell just does not make sense for the movie itself.
No, they'll make young Constantine, and then it'll be before he killed himself and he was seeing all the demons and he killed himself. Then he's in hell, right? And then we'll have that one.
In this one, speaking of that, we get to see a little glimpse whenever he's explained to Angela that he was in hell.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see the ambulance driving in hell.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool how they play it off. Like, in the living, it's just a regular street, and then it goes into the whole entire apocalyptic world of hell
Mm-hmm.
with the ambulance. And that was just like a little nod thing. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. We're
Yeah,
in, we're out. The end of
we're
the
in.
origin story.
Yeah, exactly. It very interesting. You're right. And I mean, it was a blink and you miss it.
Exactly. And
So,
that's what I like. It's just like in and out. We know who he is, and that's the end of it. They don't
mm-hmm.
string it along for 2.5 hours of his whole entire origin story.
Right, correct. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that's one thing that I enjoyed with it, because other origin stories are about 2.5 hours long, and then you have maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes of a whole entire setup of a plot. But this
Right,
one,
exactly.
we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Um, so now we're getting into this other thing where at the morgue, Constantine's friend Father Hennessy discovers a mysterious symbol on Isabella's wrist, but is
Mm-hmm.
killed by a half-breed demon named Balazar. Say his name?
Balthazar.
Balthazar. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Constantine and Angela later uncover Hennessy carved the symbol into his own hand
Right.
for them to find. Angela also discovers a hidden message from Isabel referencing a chapter from Hell's Bible
Mm-hmm.
before being killed by Balthazar.
Yeah.
Constantine's ally, B-Man, reveals that the symbol represents the Antichrist Mammon, Lucifer's son. The chapter foretells Mammon upspringing his father and conquering Earth using a powerful psychic and divine assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Isabel, a powerful psychic, sacrificed herself to thwart Mammon's plan. Angela confesses that she possessed similar psychic abilities but repressed them to avoid being labeled insane like her sister, to help
Mm-hmm.
Angela rediscover her powers. Constantine
Mm-hmm.
induces a near death experience. With her reawakened abilities, Angela locates Balthazar. Constantine interrogates Balthazar, who reveals that the blood of Christ on the spear tip is Mammon's divine assistance, and Angela will be his host. An
Mm-hmm.
unseen entity destroys Balthazar and abducts Angela, who becomes possessed by Mammon.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot going on here. So,
Yeah, a
the,
lot. the
so the, yeah,
Go ahead.
go on
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
No,
I'll
you go
let you go
ahead.
on ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to go back to Father Hennessy, who's
Yeah,
played by Pruitt Taylor Vance, who's again kind of like Damone Husso is, and Tilda Swinton is a great actor, and I know he's just kind of playing a typical alcoholic priest, I suppose. Is there such a thing?
that's what I'm
Um,
thinking. Is I think he's addicted to drinking, so therefore that's why Balthazar makes him addicted. Basically, his
right. He can't get
um
enough.
drug of choice.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, he was so earlier scene with Hennessy, I think he had a flask or something, and Constantine says something like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that in another way. He said it differently, but and the father says, Father Hennessy says, I got to keep the voices at bay, right? And so he has powers, right? So we have Beeman who makes these weapons and so forth. He has some type of powers, but we don't know what they are. Hennessy has powers. We see that whenever he goes to the morgue and he's looking for kind of clues, I suppose, and he's touching people and then getting information. And then Balthazar is like, uh-oh, he's getting close. We need to, his job is as the henchman in a way is to get rid of any looky-loos, right? And so Father Hennessy becomes a looky-loo. He goes, he whispers to him, makes him crave alcohol so much, and then he can't get it, right? Again, it's a weird duality thing again, right? So where he's trying, he goes into the convenience store and he's drinking, but you see that he can't drink anything. But the reality was that he was, because the cop at the end said he drank so much alcohol that he killed himself. Right. And then before he
right?
dies, he stabs his hand with a corkscrew of all things, which totally ties into Catholicism and wine and alcoholism and everything. And he puts the symbol on his hand that is on Isabel's arm. And it's the symbol that was on the girl who was possessed, right at the beginning.
Right.
And this is the third point of that symbolism. And so he had the wherewithal to do that. And then they're like, why didn't you call Constantine if you knew you were in trouble? And, the problem was that he didn't know he was in trouble because he didn't think he was drinking, but he was.
Right. It's
And
that whole entire illusion.
yeah, it was an illusion. And the illusion was instigated by Balthazar, who is a half-breed demon. And even during, before all this, there's these little tidbits where they say, where they're talking about how there's this world of good and evil, and the thing is, they're not, certain demons are not supposed to be on this plane, but the ones that are try to influence people to do good things or bad things. The angels for good things and the demons for bad things. And so he was influencing Father Hennessy to think that he wasn't getting the drink whenever he was trying to. And I'll tell you, that scene, I've watched it, I don't know how many times now, masterfully done, because literally, I guess it was done because it was real. There was no CG, I don't think, involved in that at that time because of the nature of what it was that they were doing. But it really looks like he's not getting anything, but then water or alcohol is pouring out of these bottles whenever he sets them down or whenever he breaks them or anything. I mean,
well,
it was
even
great.
when he dies, you see nothing but alcohol coming out of his mouth.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, he's gone. So the illusion is broken. Right. So, yeah, but really well done visually. As watching it, you're like, he's not getting any alcohol. I mean, that's what when you first watch it, you're like, what? He's pouring this, but it's not, and it's glugging, right? Glug,
it's
glug,
not
glug,
coming
glug.
out. Like nothing's coming out.
Yeah.
And this is whole illusion of like something's wrong. And then we're going insane just as he is, and we're wanting that thirst just as Hennessy is as an audience, because we wanted to have that drink.
Right, because he really was.
Just keeps on. It's just horrifying, though, because we're thinking that this guy's not being able to have anything to drink, and then come to find out he's just going overstorching himself with alcohol and drowning himself in alcohol to the point where he's dead.
Right, and he kills himself. Yeah.
And the thing that I liked though too was when Constantine and Angela comes in there, he winds up. Constantine winds up walking up to him. And like you mentioned, he said, why didn't you call me? But like you said, there's no sense of danger. Right. So why would he call you? But also too, he's also under the hypnotized in a sense to where he doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
Himself.
He's totally out of it. And the interesting thing in that scene, again, this whole duality, is Balthazar is the demon. The storekeeper turns out to be an angel.
Right. And the angel does not like Constantine.
Right.
He's like, what the hell are you doing here?
Right. Exactly.
And he takes the ice cube, Constantine does, and rubs it around there, and he sees the symbol. And Angela was like, what did you see? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm a cop. Of course I know what's going on. But I just thought it was funny that they allowed him to work the crime scene, and the partner's kind of like turning his head to where he doesn't see it.
Right. Yeah, that's not the typical, right, for these movies. It'd be like, get out of there. Right. Yeah.
You're ruining my crime scene. You're not supposed to move the body.
Yeah. You're not supposed to touch them. You're contaminating everything.
Right. Contaminating evidence.
Yeah. But they didn't go there. But, I mean, at that point, they were, kind of in it together. And so, she's beginning to trust him. Another thing with that was where he took a handkerchief, I think it was, and then put it on his palm and then peeled off the symbol, right, in blood,
right,
onto the handkerchief, which is, and again, this may be reading a little bit much into it, but that's, impressions and things like that. If you think about, we'd mentioned Indiana Jones already, when he's in the, he goes down to the basement of the library to find the knight, and he has a partial rubbing, and then he lays over and finishes the rubbing on the casket of the knight. So that is very much ingrained in kind of this old occultism and so forth, is to have these rubbings and these things like that. So I thought that was really fascinating that they utilize that, because he could have easily just held up his hand and said, "Yep, that's a symbol," but he
Exactly.
didn't. He
No.
put this on his hand. He takes that impression with the blood. Again, blood plays into other things with the Spear of Destiny, and he pulls it off, and there he has, then you see the symbol, right? It's not so apparent when he's stabbing his hand. It's not so apparent when he rubs the ice, but it's incredibly apparent when he takes that handkerchief and pulls it off with blood on it.
Right. And then we get the whole entire thing with B-Man, with the symbol represents the Antichrist Mammon and Lucifer's son. So I like the idea, like there's another version of Corinthians that we don't know about, and since in the Satanic Bible aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
how'd Beeman get that, right? This is another superpower of Beeman, is he has the Hell's Bible.
Right, and I wouldn't want that in my house. I'm sorry, but I get you're investigating this thing, dude. But come on, you already know that there's other demons after your people, and you're gonna let this guy, B-Man, talk to you about this?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Right. Yeah, but it was fascinating, and then the whole aspect that there is a Hell's Bible, right? Because that was discussed between him and Angela. Was like, she's like, "There's no Corinthians 21 or whatever I think it was," and he's like, "Well, it's in the Bible that's in hell." She's like, "There's Bibles in hell?" And the funny thing is, of course, there's Bibles in hell, right? The story of hell wouldn't even be known if it wasn't for the Bible.
Well, don't forget, he was also Lucifer's actually was the best looking angel in heaven.
That's right.
So therefore, he knows scripture.
That's right. I mean, he was in the club,
right? Until God kicked him out, and then
cast him
out. But I also like how B-Man is how he's upstairs in the bowling alley. I just love this wide angle shot in the back.
Right.
With him looking through the Satanic Bible, and you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, wondering what the hell's going to happen to this guy, because you're afraid for this guy, because he's reading a Satanic Bible. But not only is he reading a Satanic Bible, but you're also afraid because of the fact that you're afraid of Balthazar coming up behind him and doing something to him.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So you have two things going at the same time.
Yeah, and he's like in the machinery of the bowling alley or something. Everything's spinning around, and it all very tenuous.
But yeah, then you have the chapter 14. Okay, so then after that, we wind up finding B-Man covered in flies, and he's dead.
He's dead, yeah, like pestilence. Yeah.
And after that,
which is sad, because I want to know more about B-Man,
Me too. I want to know more about him, but also Hennessy too. That's one of the things that I wish that they would actually give us a little bit more care of, because they made him seem like more like side characters that helped Constantine, but I wanted more from it.
Right. My guess is, if you extrapolate it, is they're not really all that much different than Constantine, because they both had some type of connections to the the afterlife, as it were, and seemed to be trapped, and they were trying to help people as much as they could, given the limitations of being trapped in that situation. Right. If you live between worlds like that, you'd be a nervous wreck, and they both were. Right. Constantine's the only one who seems to come across as not being a total nervous wreck out of all the people who seem to be able to be on both sides of it there.
Right.
And those two were just total nervous wrecks as people, because of what's happening to them.
So
that was my thought, at least.
Right. That's actually a good point. I actually like that point.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Angela confessing to Constantine in her sister's psychiatric room? And they do this thing where I'm just cracking up, laughing a little bit because of how over the top it is. Because it's a spinning camera angle. He goes, "What did she tell you, Angela? What do you know, Angela?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, and so she winds up confessing to him that she also has psychic abilities, but she was also afraid that she would be locked up just like her sister. So therefore,
Hmm.
she didn't say anything. And he's also looking for something that the sister left behind. But they also, I like how they said, how Angela says, "Well, me and Isabel leave messages on windows."
Right on the window. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, he's looking for that connection, and there's always this is the whole idea of them being twins, is there's a connection between twins, and so therefore you must have you know the ability to see beyond what is apparent in this room, and then she did, and it was she left a message, and it was
Then,
kind of neat how they did it with but I'm like, gosh, this insane asylum never cleans their windows.
right? One of my friend's mom would actually kill me because I
Yeah.
actually used a lot of Windex. I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you that right now because I
It's
would
like,
always
because I
touch
mean,
the
she's been
windows.
dead for a while, right? So somebody should have come in there and cleaned the window, but maybe not.
But then,
Yeah.
then we have Constantine induces a near death experience with her reawakened abilities. Angela locates
Hmm.
Balthazar. Constantine interrogates Balthazar, who reveals that the
Hmm.
blood of Christ in the spear tip is one of his divine assistants. So
Hmm.
I like how he's now got brass knuckles on.
I know, with the cross on him. That was great.
So I thought that was pretty cool. That I think that scene, if you listen to the scoring of that scene or another scene later on in the movie, it has
Hmm.
a Saw theme song. They
Hmm.
used the Saw theme song.
Oh, really? Okay.
I kind of noticed it hidden, like it's like very lightly, but you can. I'm
Okay.
like, did they use the Saw theme because it just seemed like it?
Well,
Like
maybe it was the same composer. I don't know. Let's
I
see.
don't know, but it was kind of interesting. But I definitely
I'll
like
look
the
real quick
scene.
if there's the same composer or not. Let's see. But go ahead. The other thing about that scene that I loved was uh, Klaus Badelt was one of the composers.
Okay,
I don't see him in. I'm looking through his filmography, and I don't see Saw in there. But anyway,
okay,
the other thing I liked about the that scene was whenever she gets pulled through the building at the end of that scene, right? So
right.
Angela gets pulled. I'm like, to me, I mean, even today watching it, that holds up so well to see that occur. You know what I mean? Just ripping through cubicles and walls and glass and all that kind of stuff. It was just amazing how they pulled that off and made it look pretty darn good. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I don't know if you thought the same way, but
I did. I definitely did because they could have been too over the top. The CGI could have been sloppy, but for the most part, that part actually holds up.
oh, it holds
Especially
up
when
good.
it
Yeah.
really does. I loved it just as much as I did the first time I seen it and
Yeah.
stuff. There's nothing about this movie as far as the special effects go that takes me out of the movie, which is weird because it's
Mhm.
movie that came out in 2005.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. No, it was really quite good, and I just love that scene especially. I could just watch that over and over again. I don't know how they pulled it all off, but I'm assuming there was a lot of miniatures involved because it looks very real. It doesn't look CG'd, a lot of it.
No,
And so yeah, I was just like, wow, that was cool. And then he gets to the end of the building and they keep going, and Constantine, what the interesting thing about that is he gets to the edge, to the window that leads outside the building. The camera backs up, so you just see him in the window there, that used to be the window. He's standing there, and it's almost like his shoulders slump, and he turns around and walks away, like, well, crap, I missed it, I didn't get him, you know.
right.
But it was very much in character. He wasn't like shaking his fist and yelling or anything. He was like, they're going to make this harder on me.
Right. It's like I fucked up. Now I had
Yeah.
to figure out another way to do this.
Exactly. Yeah. But they didn't, you don't hear it or anything. It's just that visual from a distance, and the body language and everything just is totally in character for Constantine.
Agreed.
The only thing that would have made it better is if you could see he would lighten up a cigarette.
That would have been awesome though. It's like takes a puff.
Yeah. All right, we got to start over.
But now we're getting into this. Now we're getting starting to get into the climax of it.
Right. Yeah.
So, with the help of the witch doctor, Papa Midnight,
Papa
Constantine
Midnight.
induces. I love that name, Papa Midnight.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
just
one.
love
Yeah.
it. Constantine induces Visions to locate Angela at the psychiatric hospital alongside his apprentice, Chaz Kramer. Constantine arms himself and assaults the building, battling through hordes of demons to Angela. Constantine and Chaz seemingly exercise moments from her, but Chaz is killed by an unseen force revealed to be Gabriel. Resentful
Mhm.
at God's favoritism for humanity and forgiveness for even the most wicked, Gabriel intends to unleash hell on earth so that those who survive will become truly worthy of his love.
Mhm.
Gabriel tosses Constantine away and prepares to stab Angela with the spear tip to unleash Mammon. So this actually feels like Blade at this moment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is Blade. This is Blade type vibes. You shoot, and I love how the cross is actually a way, and he's shooting these bullets, these holy rounds.
Right.
That's what I'm going to call it, holy rounds
Right.
of
Yeah. Holy
ammunition,
rounds.
and he's shooting at these demons, and they're evaporating into like dust and stuff. It reminds me so much like Blade, except for the special effects for this actually holds up a little bit more than Blade's special
Right.
effects for
Yeah.
this.
Hmm.
Even though, because don't forget, 98 special effects are different than 2005.
Oh yeah.
So they were able
really
to,
ramped up. Yeah. Hmm.
so therefore they were able to do it a little bit better than Blade. But I still love Blade. But this
Right.
to me was top notch here. You have Chaz who's over there. He gets a shot in as
Hmm.
well. I love the whole entire chemistry between Keanu Reeves and also Shia LaBeouf. I thought they
Hmm.
bounced off each other very well
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
this. And
Hmm.
at this time, Shia LaBeouf was actually just getting like small roles in like iRobot, stuff like that. So when he pops
Hmm.
up, it's like, oh, Shia's in this. This is gonna be great
Right. Yeah.
because has that comedic element to it. So
Hmm.
just seeing him being able to do this and him trying to do this exorcism with Constantine, and he goes, and then you're thinking, okay, all is over, and then the demon is still inside of Angela,
Right.
and then Gabriel winds up coming out of nowhere, this is like a plot twist because
Right.
now he's basically the puppeteer
Right.
with everything.
Yeah. He's complicit in the plan, and he's not supposed to be because he's on the good side, right? So.
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned Chaz puts the cross in the water tank and then the sprinklers, and you're right, that's all Blade-ish, right? So but it was good, and it was very high action, and I love the way he walks into it. He walks in and they've got all these characters that are demons, and you can just tell, even though they don't really show them as demons, they show them as regular people when he first walks in, but they're all a little bit off, right? So they're all demons, even though they're not like got demonic looks about all of them or anything. They all just look a little bit weird. And he gets the chair
Face
and
is
he
kind of
goes,
decrypted. You're right.
yeah, a little bit, but it wasn't like super overt. And then he takes his lighter and he sets off the sprinklers. Just like, hey, I'm coming in here and I'm going to do this. It wasn't like rushed or like I had to get in there with like 30 seconds and set off these sprinklers. He kind of just comes in and does it. And then, starts blowing people away and whatnot. It was just a really he, again, keeping the Constantine character even, right? Constantine, the character, is not going to rush in and start shooting, right? He's going to methodically do the plan. And that's what he did. And I think that was that's what another part that made it for me was that they didn't, all of a sudden he's Arnold Schwarzenegger and he's got two miniguns propped up and shooting everything. They kept to the character and did it the way the character should be doing it, and so forth. And then, I mean, are we going to talk about who shows up?
Yeah, we'll get into that in,
Okay.
now.
One of my favorite
Because
parts
don't
of the
forget,
movie.
Chaz winds up dying because of the fact that he takes a blow to the head because of what
Right.
happened with Gabriel. Gabriel winds up um, getting lifted off his feet and hits his head up on the ceiling. He winds up
Right.
coming down and he dies.
Mhm.
So Chaz is dead at this point.
Right.
And then we got desperate. Constantine commits suicide by slitting his wrist, knowing that Lucifer will personally come to collect him. Time pauses, and Constantine convinces Lucifer to intervene and stop Mammon. Gabriel attempts to smite Lucifer, but is unable to, as Gabriel no longer has God's favor because of what he's done. Lucifer burns Gabriel's wings away while also banishing Mammon back to hell. Then he reluctantly offers to restore Constantine to life for his assistance. Constantine instead asks that Isabel be sent to heaven. Lucifer realizes Isabel and starts dragging Constantine to hell. But Constantine begins ascending to heaven for his selfless sacrifice and flips him off. Lucifer restores Constantine to life and removes his cancer, believing that in time Constantine will prove he belongs in hell. Constantine punches the now mortal Gabriel before leaving and thrusts Angela with securing the spear tip. In a post-credit scene, Constantine visits Chaz's grave and witnesses him in an Atlantic form. So let's talk about the fact that Lucifer shows up.
And I mean, Peter Stormare plays Satan, and to me, he is the best actor to ever play Satan. He comes in, his feet are dripping with tar, but he's in a white suit and he's very clean, other than his feet, right?
Right.
And he comes down from above. We don't get to see him fully until he lands, and I'm talking the creepy. I mean, I think they shaved his eyebrows. I don't think he had any eyebrows. He looked so weird and yet so normal. And his behavior was the same way. It was so weird yet so normal. And it was the creepiest Satan I've seen in a movie that wasn't, kind of cartoony or over the top or anything. I mean, he obviously was over the top with some of his acting, but totally they set the character of Satan up and he totally embodied it. And I mean, this scene alone, at the end with Peter Stormare, is just like magic. You cannot not watch it.
I agree. He just overpowers the screen, and I like how time just slows down and stops.
Yeah.
And he just looks at him, and he goes, "Look, she's got the spear of destiny. Oh, she got the spear of destiny.
Right.
Oh." And just, is this some type of coy that you're playing with here, Constantine? Just go see for yourself, and then you can take me to hell. And I like how tough he is, even with his wrist split. And then I also like how he's also trying to light his lighter too.
Right.
Just, well, when you cut a little too deep, you lose the nerves.
Right.
To be able to do, like, he's a fucking doctor.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes, here, let me help you.
and then he toys with him.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to light the cigarette. He moves it around so he can't get the cigarette lit, like being a jerk.
Right.
Oh, it was funny.
I love it. That's exactly what Satan would do to somebody like that. And then he's mad at Gabriel because he's interfering with the balance between him and God, the thing that him and God made.
Right.
So therefore, that pisses him off even more. So now Gabriel, after he rips off the wings, now Gabriel's just a fallen angel because of his shit that he's done.
Yeah. Yeah. And he, like, they cut the deal, right? Constantine's like, you can take me, but Isabella needs to go to heaven, right? And he like gives him, is very serious, like, and he goes, okay, done, right? And it just in an instant.
But this goes to show you that Satan doesn't even think about what he's doing because now he's doing a selfless act, which means
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't get what he wants, which is
Right.
Constantine's soul.
Right.
So now he doesn't just have Angela's soul going up to heaven. He's got two souls now going up to heaven
Right.
instead.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that pisses him off. So it's like, no one's going to kill you but me. If anybody
yeah.
has any say so, it's going to be me at the end of this day. So
Mm-hmm.
he winds up. I don't know what it is about this scene when he takes the cancer out and you see the smoke from the
Mm-hmm.
cancer.
Yeah.
Like every single time, I'm like, this is just. I don't know. There's just something about it. When I think of lung cancer, I think of that scene every single time. I don't know what it is.
Great visual of taking away the cancer.
Right.
Exactly. He reaches into him and his lungs and basically pulls out all of the gunk and restores him to clean bill of health at that point. Yeah, it is. But Peter Stormare, I mean, you talk about a performance and a half, and he's
He
only
did a
in it for
better
a couple
job
minutes.
than. Right. He did a better job than Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
in my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, again, I think that's the great part of this movie is the fact that they have. I mean, you talk about Papa Midnight, you talk about Father Hennessy, you talk about Beeman, even Chaz. They're all characters that are really important to the story, but they're not overused. You know, they
No.
could have done. Peter Stormare could have been half the movie. They could have had been cutting away to him manipulating Balthazar and say, Balthazar,
Like,
go get Hennessy. You know what I mean? Didn't need to do it.
if you think about it, though, Balthazar is just an employee that works for Satan.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he's basically the union guy that
Right.
works for
Right.
Satan. He's not
Yeah.
the Satan. He's just Satan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that's what I got out of it. It's like he's just a union guy that's working and does what his boss tells him to do.
Yeah. Yeah, true. But again, you had Balthazar who was so
Right.
good as a villain, and yet Stormare comes, and my God, he kind of blew him out of the water.
Right. And you would think that Balthazar was actually the main bad guy, but he's
Right.
not.
Yeah, but he's not.
So that's something I really like is the fact that they pulled this out from us and it's been Gabriel all this time.
Right. Exactly. And then Gabriel, right. Exactly. And then Gabriel comes and it's like a whole switcheroo you wouldn't have saw coming. And everybody did their part so well. And I mean, that's the thing with this movie is it's like you watch it and you're like so into it. And all these people do so well with their parts that even though this is something that is not is foreign to most everyone, really, right?
Right.
This whole world and everything that you totally buy it. You know, suspension of disbelief is a hallmark in how you make a good movie, and they did it.
They nailed it in every
Nailed it.
scene.
Never.
And the scene that I want to talk about is this. Okay, so after everything's done, Gabriel takes the holy gun, which is what I'm going to call it,
yeah.
with the holy rounds
Right.
that's designed like a cross,
Mhm.
and he comes up to Constantine and goes, "Well, you can go on ahead and kill me now." And
Mhm.
if he did that, that would
Reverse.
give the Satan exactly what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, and also too, is also what Gabriel would want though too. But no, instead, he was just punching him in the face, and he goes, "Welcome
Mhm.
to Earth, bitch," basically,
Right. Yeah.
and welcome to having pain.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and we didn't even get I mean, I was meant to mention this earlier on and I forgot, but again, that's part of the duality, right? You have love and then you have pain, right? You have love with the sisters love each other and Hennessy loves alcohol, right? And
Right.
then you have the pain of it, right? Because again, a whole, lesson in duality for all of these characters and everything that's going on in this movie is you have to have the pain and suffering to have the love and caring. And it's everybody, a lot of things always just try to focus on one or the other.
Right.
They don't talk about how, everything kind of goes together and
Right. And every
like
single
heaven and
character
hell.
is imperfect
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
and they're going off of their temptations, what they're addicted to,
Hmm.
and they're using it against them, just like how it is in everyday life. So
Right. Yeah.
I liked it. I really think this film still holds up.
Hmm.
I think that this movie has rewatchability. I think that I'm not going to say this is like the best Keanu Reeves movie ever, but this is
No.
the one that I would have to say that is one of my favorite movies that I will go back and revisit just to have the rewatchability and discovering something new
Hmm.
because it has some deep layers into it.
Hmm.
Um, Chaz at the very end setting up for the sequel. I don't see Shia reprising that role because of how old he is now. In order to do that, you would actually have to do a deep fake of him if you want to make him this angel that never ages or something.
Yeah, maybe,
Unless
but
you're gonna make him a fallen angel and do it that way, but still.
I hope, I hope that he does come back for it, because it really would kind of pull it all together again. You know what I mean?
Right.
They'll come up with a reason that he's looks older, or they'll make him look younger. I mean, uh, Keanu Reeves is going to look older, right? So I think they'll figure something out. But I think it really would be good, because the funny thing is, my wife was half watching this with me, and
My wife too.
and she goes, "What happened to Shia LaBeouf? He's so good in this movie." And I go, "Well, I don't know really." I said, but my guess would be, because he was very young, right? Even at this stage in this movie, very young when he got incredibly famous, right? And he obviously, everybody knows now that he had a pretty bad childhood. He's made movies about his bad childhood, and so I think that's probably what had to do with it. And then I think he made people angry in the business, and then that all kind of fell off, right? But I
Well,
think you
yeah.
look at this movie, he's a really good actor in a lot of things, prior. And it would be really nice if you could reprise this role and be that character again.
Same here. And I like Shia as an actor. As a person, I don't really like him as a person, but I can
Hmm.
separate the art from the artist
Yeah.
and do it that way. I know he directed a Marilyn Manson video.
Hmm.
Yeah, he directed a Marilyn Manson video. He was also in this one other movie called The Tax Collector, where he ended up getting tattoos for the role.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He kind of
Um,
goes overboard a little bit. You don't have to do
yeah.
all that, but
But yeah, he hasn't really done much. But I would love to see a comeback for him. I always root for a comeback and mature, and also, of course, being mature now. That's
right.
what I hope for. But
Well,
I like him as an actor.
when he made the Indiana Jones movie, right? Everything was set up for Mutt to become Indiana Jones in that movie,
Yep.
right? But then they didn't. They pulled back, and I'm sure no one is going to admit why they did that. It was always the plan. I don't think that was always the plan. I have a feeling that he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and then they're like, "We can't do this."
Right.
And that's why that movie ended the way it did. Everybody was happier that way because they love Harrison Ford in the role and everything, but that whole movie, the whole story of that movie was set up to make Mutt be the next Indiana Jones.
Right.
And then they didn't. And if you think about it, that's also when the dominoes were falling for his career.
Right.
It all
So
seemed to coincide. But
exactly.
anyway.
So my question is this: so now that we stripped away the nostalgia, now that we
Mhm.
talked about this scene by scene, what are you going to give this?
Oh, I still give it at least a 7.5. I mean, the nostalgia doesn't really boost it tremendously. I mean, it's still a very rewatchable movie, and on a lot of levels. I think I do have some nostalgia for it. In some areas, because I was just thinking, I can't remember, and I didn't look this up before we started talking, but having a after credit scene for this is a comic book movie.
Yeah, this is a DC comic book movie. Yeah, this is a post credit scene.
Yeah. Now, when was Iron Man? Wasn't that 2000 and
Iron Man was a couple of years later, I think.
9, I think, or 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. I have to look it up, but
2008. So 3 years later.
yeah, yeah, and that always gets credit for these after
But
credit scenes.
but they've always had post credit scenes in
True.
different some movies, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off had
Right.
post credit
Yeah.
scenes. Dennis the Menace. The list
Yeah.
just goes on when it comes down to post credit scenes.
True.
But as far as a post credit scene that ties into something and establishes something else, that's completely different, though.
Right. Yeah. But a little bit. It wasn't totally because it wasn't a cinematic universe building kind of thing. But it was interesting that they had a post credit scene for a comic book movie this early on. So yeah, I think they did one in Howard the Duck. To be honest with you, back in the 80s.
Now you're gonna make me go back and watch Howard the Duck, which is actually one of my favorites, and also Christopher Minory's favorite movie too.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, a lot of people hate Howard the Duck.
I like it,
but I thought it was fine. Yeah, it wasn't hateable.
No, absolutely. I thought it was just comical, it's fun. I was a young kid, naive, but but still, for me, for this movie, I'm gonna still keep the score. I'm gonna probably give it like an 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it like an 8.5 or 8.7. I'm just gonna go with an 8 because I'll rewatch it. I'll check it out again. I'll watch all the scenes. The rewatchability is really good. The special effects still hold up. The story wise is good. But yeah, I definitely will check this out later on. Again, sometime in the future. So my question for you though, Bob, is what do you have coming out as far as your shows go? What's going on over at Static Radio right now?
Oh, nobody cares about any of that stuff. Come on. Hey, the funny thing is we had a friend of the show, I guess I would call him, went to the Planet Comic Con in Kansas City and gave us a report this week about it because he was volunteering there and got to meet some of the celebrities. So if you want to hear about Planet Comic Con in Kansas City, which oddly enough for the Midwest is one of the bigger Comic Cons, you can listen into that. The other thing is I did a thing called Mondo Frico, mondofricopodcast.com, where we talk about crazy things like paranormal and supernatural, which kind of goes in with this movie a little bit in kind of a comedic way. So you can check that out. We've got this week is about the Overton Bridge. We've also done things on the Mongolian death worm. It's something new trying to do. And so if you feel like checking out or want to hear about things that are kind of weird and wild, mondofricopodcast.com.
All right. Well, guys, that's going to be it as far as the show goes. But do me one big favor. Go on and check out our Unfiltered Studios friends. We have the Stupid History Minute with Keb. Not only that, but we also have the Sleepy G Show. We also have Hypno Wellness. We also have Mama D. We also have Finding Your Way with the Beep. We have all those great podcasts.
Better Call Daddy?
I don't think so. We don't have that one yet.
Oh, you don't? Well,
No.
I know you have the story of because I just talked.
Yeah, we have the story of.
There you go.
Yep. There we go. But yeah, we have all those Pillows of Support is what I'm thinking about from Mama D. There we go. And the other was Saint Joe, of course. But yeah, and then also too, I want to give everyone a little small heads up on as far as the schedule goes. So I will be doing a Superman rewatch of all the Christopher Reeves movies. On the 7th will be Superman the movie. On the 11th will be Superman 2. On the 14th will be Superman 3. And then on the 18th will be Superman 4. The Quest for Peace.
That's a lot.
Yeah. We're doing all... I was originally going to do this back in May, Bob.
Okay. I thought I seen something about this. Okay.
Yeah. Then let's see here. Then of course on Thursdays we have our Daredevil after show that we're doing over there. Rashad, Christopher, and Don will be back with me for that. 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, of course. And Rossie will be back with me. We're going to be doing our CinemaCon news and stuff once it wraps up of what movies we're excited about, the stuff they announced, and so forth. We're going to be doing that at the end of the month. So that's going to be it as far as everything that we have. But guys, go ahead and smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, show Bob some love over there. I actually have his links in the description below. And thank you again, Bob. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
You're
I
very
really
welcome.
enjoyed that doing this, and we're gonna have to find a movie that we don't agree on at some point, I think.
I would like that. I would actually like that very much.
Because so far we've been kind of, a little bit close together on a lot of these things. So
Right.
but we'll hit one. We'll see. Whatever comes up in the future, we'll see what happens.
We will. All right, guys. Have a great and safe night, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.